Welcome to another Friday Night Restoration, although I suspect it's Saturday or later as you're watching this because it's already 9 o'clock on Friday night and I just got back with my latest find, so I'll do my best, but I suspect I won't be done with it, if I'm done with it, until after midnight. Alright, so I was doing my daily search on my local Craigslist and typed in Philco, and as usual there's a whole bunch of stuff in my area, but the one for 20 bucks is the one that jumped out at me. And here it is. Now, what immediately caught my eye was the seller's description of "sounds wonderful, looks awful." And that's all there was, all the info. But I went over to the Philco gallery and I looked through the photos, and I had a pretty good idea of what the year range was because of the dial type. I figured it must be 37 or 38. And yeah, it ended up being a 3762. If you're not familiar with the Philco Radio Gallery, it's an awesome resource at philcoradio.com. It's got photos of, I think, every radio Philco ever made from the beginning to the end. This one in particular, I believe, was from January 37. And see, they have all these photos, so just by looking at it, hey, that looks a lot like it right there. You tap on the picture, it takes you to the section on it. So it says it's the late version. If we scroll up, here's the earlier version, which I guess is rarer and probably more valuable, but I like the looks of the later version better. Now, both of these are fairly low-end models and have a photo finish. That's what all this flecking is here. This is just a cheap secondary wood, and it's kind of like like a photograph that's glued to the front of the radio that has a wood grain pattern on it. This is the one I have. Now, I don't know about how well it may or may not play, because when I got there I didn't have the seller plug it in because I just didn't want to chance anything nasty happening before I got a chance to look at the insides. But as far as it looking awful, well, that all depends on what your definition of awful is. Because I don't care that this looks like crap, because this is easy to deal with. I'll just strip the remaining finish off here, seal it, grain filler, toner lacquer, and then finish lacquer. This is just kind of secondary wood. It's just curved plywood bent around. The important thing is the photo finish is in pretty darn good shape as photo finishes go. Got a little chip out down here and here that can be glued back in. Put a little brown touch up on here. The rest of it's crazed, but it's pretty well intact. So I'll just clean this up with maybe a little Gojo, maybe a little light sanding, get off a few flecks of white latex paint, and maybe clear coat it a bit. And that should be that. Grill cloth actually isn't too bad as well. Just kind of nasty down here, but I might be able to do something with it because I don't think you can get this pattern anymore. 4 nuts that hold the speaker in. A little rusty, lost paint. I got a nice dark walnut enamel paint. I can recoat those. Philco logo's in pretty good shape, I think. Maybe just one little chip out there. Looks like the dial glass is missing, which kind of blows. But the dial scale looks to be in good shape, and this part of it's in good shape. I think somebody out there might sell a little round piece of glass the right size, but I'll get it working before I worry about investing any kind of money like that. There is a kind of caved in on the side here. Hopefully I can pop that out and glue it up. Top's caved in a bit too. Maybe I can, again, prop that up. The last bit of bad I've seen is that there should be a piece of molding on this side. It's gone, which is just a strip of wood. That shouldn't be too hard to replace. It's got all the knobs. Now, as far as the inside goes, I really didn't look at it. When I picked it up, the seller had been kind of taking a nap, he and his wife, and she didn't get up, but he did. And although she was the one who actually placed the ad, and he immediately carried it out to the garage, and where we had a compressor, and he blew out all the dust and dirt. So I don't think it's going to be too bad inside. But I really have not taken a look. I do kind of like this design because It looks very similar to the design of some of my favorite Philco sets, which would be like the 38.7 chair side I have and the 3810 bullet. 5-tube lineup, does have a power transformer. So 5Y4 rectifier, 6A8 combination detector, oscillator, mixer, all that good stuff. And then 6K7 for IF, 6Q7 second detector, first audio, and then 6F6 output with, yeah, it's a field coil speaker, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, field coil down in there. A couple 8 microfarad filter caps, and there's probably one more electrolytic hiding somewhere else in this design. Oh yeah, down there, 10. So pretty basic, but if it's anything like my 3810, it should work fairly well. And one thing I'm concerned about right away is these tubes. So they have the G at the end, like 6A8G. Philco used glass versions of these tubes, but pretty much, if not everybody else, use the metal version. The glass versions have a smaller diameter base, and they have like a little metal collar that goes around the base and the bottom of the tube to shield it. Whereas the metal ones have a wider base, and the metal tube itself acts as the shield. Well, what happens often to these radios over the years is that as these tubes go bad and somebody wants to replace the tube, they go with the metal ones because they're much more common, less expensive, but they won't fit unless you hack up that shield around the base. So most of the chassis I've gotten from that era have hacked up tube bases. Don't know about this guy. Rectifier tube. I just can't quite see him with all this stuff on the way. Well, I'll just pull the chassis out. As I'm rocking it, I can tell that these rubber mounts are, well, I got a little bit of life left. I've seen worse. I might have some replacements on hand, but if not, I'll just go with what I got. Alright, so this is, until at least some of the bolts are holding this in. So first thing I'm going to do is pull the knobs off, remove the chassis bolts, and slide this thing out and see, let's see what we've really got. You may have noticed I was using an iPad a moment ago. That was something I picked up at a corporate get-together in Washington, D.C. last week. It was kind of a meeting of the development team and some management, kind of working out a strategy for 2013 about what projects we could do and who would work on them. And the topic came up that nobody in our team knows how to do iOS programming. And I half-jokingly said, well, if somebody gets me an iPad, I'll take a whack at it. And next thing I knew, I had an iPad in my hand. So it's for work, but, you know, I can play around with it pretty much for my own stuff, too. Alright, so got lucky with the knobs there. Now, put this on its side. Let's see about getting the chassis out. Transformers at this end, I think. Yeah, so it's heavier. So put it this way. And there's only one left. And I think that one might actually be the shipping one. And you're supposed to take that out when you, well, at any rate, it should have one in each corner. Or, I mean, yeah, so there should be 4 more bolts in there, and it's missing the feet. You see a little trace, like here, of a nail hole. And on the other corners, too, so probably these little nail-on type rubber feet. Sometimes with Philco, they would have the main chassis bolts, and then there'd be an extra one for shipping. Because normally these kind of float on those rubber cushions, and when they would ship it, they would add an extra bolt to really tighten it down so it wouldn't bounce around so much. And usually those are located right about here. That's that. Now, if this is anything like my 38 Philcos, yeah, it does look to be like it is. The speaker is hardwired to the chassis, which is a real pain in the butt. This is the speaker wire here. So it just goes right through a hole into the chassis and it's hardwired in there. So you got a couple choices when you work on them. One, you can rotate this out and leave it wired into the speaker in the cabinet while you're working on it, which is really not too practical except for some quick fixes. You can take out the speaker and carefully leave it wired in and have it sitting on your bench while you work on the chassis, but you run the risk of maybe damaging the cone. Or you can pop the cover off the back of the speaker and unsolder the 3 or 4 wires going to it, which is what I typically do. But for now, because I want to check out the speaker cone anyways, I'm going to leave it wired in and just reach in there and undo the 4 speaker bolts, which hopefully are not rusted up. Take out the speaker. This one's cooperating. Just got to be careful when you do this that you don't poke your fingers right through the cone. Don't ask me how I know. Just two. These are actually loose enough. I'm able to get them out. Just my fingertips. Come on, little tall can. Hey, boy, this looks identical to my Philco 38 chassis. That was the first radio I ever restored, so I'm kind of fond of it. Just, I mean, not only because I love the look of the cabinet, but just because it was the first radio I ever restored. This is very similar looking, except 3810's a little bit higher end. It's 2 bands. A little more to it, like this tuning condenser here. This is just broadcast band, although, as I say that, I noticed on the tuning dial, it does have police. 2.5 to 2.3 megahertz, but there's no band switch on this, as far as I know. It's probably got the usual Philco with power tone, volume, and then tuning. And the tuning on this is also crude in that it doesn't have an outer coarse and inner fine. It's just a single. I think there's a little bit of a reduction on it. A little bit of a planetary drive action there. So, anyways, these last 2 speaker screws out. See, there's some nastiness on this chassis. Looks like a critter might have lived in here for a little while. Huh, and the nut is missing from the last speaker screw. I'm glad the screw didn't fall out. Here's the insides of the cabinet. So I've got some debris down there. Make sure I salvage all these nuts from the speaker screws. Probably got damp now, a little bit in its life, but nothing too horrible. Looks like all the glue blocks are here. Part number, final inspection, run number 1-4. And there's the label, 3862. Code 121, made in USA. Alright, get this out of the way. Now, although I'm calling this a Friday night restoration, I have no delusions about it being able to restore the cabinet tonight, but I'm hoping I can get this radio playing by the time I call it quits for the night. So here's the speaker. So it's a mixed bag because it looks to be in really good condition, but we do have a tear here, so that can be glued back up. So I guess, yeah, as these go, it's actually in pretty darn good condition. No scraping. All the materials here, just need to glue up that hole. So that's cool. Output transformers mounted right in the frame. So here's that nastiness I was talking about, the chassis. Sealors, yeah. Naval jelly, work on that for a while. It'll be discolored and pitted in that area, but what can you do? Similarly, take these nuts out, pop the shell off, get off the rust, old paint, and repaint that and look a lot nicer. There's a one big electrolytic 3-section, 8 and 8 475, and 10 mics at 50 volts. It's a rectifier output tube. Wow, hey, I did luck out. Looks like these are all not all Philco tubes, but these are all the original type tubes. So there's 5x4 rectifier, 6F6G output tube. Sometimes they come with metal, replacements, but well, that's a glass one. Check this as a 6F6. Sometimes people put 6 V6s in here, which work okay. They're in the same family. Just stick in there tight. 6F6G, it's a Zenith though. Now, this would be the 6A8G, I'm pretty darn sure, but what's curious is that there's no shield around the base. So in this case, using a metal tube might actually be an improvement, so it would have better shielding. It's kind of tough to get it out right now. I'm going to put the camera back in the tripod. Okay, so the tubes I was really curious about are these two ones with the shields on them. So let's see, I'll pop this guy out. I suppose this was a plastic BB of some sort. Aha, good. So one of them that is still the original intact. So there's that metal base I'm talking about. Often these are hacked up. I've got a can opener all bent and twisted and nasty. But now I just gotta hope that those tubes are good because I don't have a whole lot of spare in that packaging style. As soon as I check this, I'm going to flip this thing over and let's see what's underneath. Alright, this one is good too. Common issue is these tubes get stuck inside the shields. Raytheon. Ooh. That sure doesn't look too healthy. But the seller claimed it played great. Kind of curious at the one spot where the getter is like blown through clear is precisely where the tube designator is stamped on there. I mean, it's bad though. Put on a tester to find out. Alright. Oh, and yeah, I'm kind of dubious about what the seller said that this thing plays great since that is the original Philco electrolytic. 38 still being good. I don't know. And 100% original. Well, no. Pause for a moment. Let's see that. I think it is all original. I'm not sure why this is spliced in here. This is a wire going to the speaker, and for some reason there's some extra lengths of wire in here with electrical tape. But the other wires don't have that, so don't quite get that. And obviously it has a new power cord. I'm really amazed that this isn't blown apart. That's the dual line filter cap. This guy. And very often those are blown apart. Like actually a chunk of the Bakelite block blown out the side, or it's already been repaired and ages past, but it looks like it's pretty well intact. And all the paper caps, all the resistors for that matter look to be original. These are all Philco branded paper caps. All 4 of them it looks like. And we've got 1, 2, 3 Bakelite blocks, I think. And all the old resistors, real colorful resistors. A few cobwebs, dead bug carcasses. That's to be expected. Well, that looks to be in pretty good shape. I wonder if this is a band switch. Let's see in the schematic here. Because this looks to be power and volume. Well, that might be a band switch. Maybe this doesn't have a tone control. Yep, power, volume, and oh, it does have a band switch. Okay. So you get broadcast on the dial, and then just this itty bitty little section on shortwave. Alright, so if I want to get this running, I got to get to it. So I'm going to pop out the rectifier and power this thing up, and let's see what happens. Unfortunately, I immediately ran into some problems. Both of these controls are completely frozen. I cannot rotate them. I can't turn this on, can't adjust the volume, can't change the band switch. Let's see all this corrosion down on the shaft here. So I'll get some WD-40, penetrating oil, whatever I can find, working on those and see if I can free them up. In the meantime, I think I'll test the tubes and maybe just do some basic resistance checks on the transformer there, because they do give you some resistance indicators on the schematic. The resistance readings on the transformer checked out okay, and it just so happens that this power switch is frozen in a position such that it's turned on. So maybe the seller really did plug it in and it actually fired up. So I've got plugged in through a light bulb, and I'm going to turn it on right now. And well, pilot light didn't come on, but all the tubes are lighting up. So even that tube where it looked like the gutter was blown out, the tube's lighting up. Alright. Well, I'll get my AC voltmeter out and stick it in the rectifier tube socket and see if we've got some secondary voltage going there. I tested the original pilot lamp for continuity and it's bad. So I dug through what I had on hand and I put one in. It's not quite right. It's meant to run at a lower voltage, but it does work for now. And I popped the rectifier tube back in. I reduced my series light bulb to 60 watts. And I turned my variac down a bit. And I'm just going to go for it. Let's see what happens. So there's the pilot light. And after all, the seller did claim it was playing fine. And I'm kind of frustrated with those bad controls. I want to see. This thing can actually put out some sound. I'll turn the variac up slowly. Huh. What do you know? That must be frozen in a position of volume control where it's putting out volume. Well, that was an easy restoration. Now, I don't know how long this is going to work on these caps. And I imagine it'll work better with newer caps. And of course, I can't change the volume, so I'm talking very loudly right now. Clearly we're stuck in the broadcast band, which is a good thing.
And the Basketball Hall of Fame announces its 12 finalists for 2013. That includes former players Gary. Say that lives may have been saved. You're listening to Fox News Radio.
Well, this is working pretty well, even on the low end of the dial. Sometimes doesn't turn in too well. I also didn't reinstall the IF shields. I thought I might get some oscillations, but no.
And then they also...
I've never fired up a radio this old with the original electrolytics and not had any hum in it. I want to check before I get carried away is to see if this can is getting hot or warm. No. It's ice cold. If the cap had some excessive leakage, it could start getting warm and warmer and just kind of start boiling and start oozing out. But no, that sucker's cold. And it can't be completely dried out, otherwise we would have some hum. Or, you know, maybe there's a little bit of hum now, but it would be like really, really loud hum. Must be Radio Disney. I'm going to go fire up my local AM transmitter and see how that sounds. Alright, I took the light bulb out of the line, so I'm running it on full juice, but my Variac does have a fuse for protection. And I just fired up some public domain music, so YouTube shouldn't have any complaints. It's just not turning on. There we go. The power plug that's in there is pretty corroded, so I'll wiggle it to get to work. You see that tile lamp I have in there is way too bright.
It's very inspiring, and I think you'll enjoy it.
I just turned my Variac down to about 60% of its normal rating, so that way I can control the volume right now. So this is only running on like 90 or 80 volts AC, and it still works. I bet the volume on this control that's frozen is cranked up at 100%. Well, I think that's all I want to do for tonight, other than continue to work on these control shafts. I might just disconnect the wires and remove them entirely so I can inspect them more closely. This one looks a little funky, I noticed. That metal collar on there is kind of ground up, like somebody may have been fooling around with this, which may be part of the problem. I don't know. I also notice it's a bit loose. This might not even be the original control. The wires inside look like they've been unsoldered and resoldered, so it's like maybe replacement control. I don't know. But otherwise, geez, this thing's original and working fine. So, hope you guys enjoyed this look at a Philco. Not 37, but a Philco 3862. And no doubt I will be doing more videos on this in the future. Also, I have painted up the Philco 15DX speaker frames, waiting for those to cure for a couple more days, and I'll try remounting the cones finally and try firing these up. But before any of that, I'm going to take a little road trip to Ohio on Sunday. At least that's what my plans are, if no snowstorms crop up or any other problems. And I'm going to come back with something that I hope will be quite interesting, and you're just going to have to wait and find out what it is.